Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Dead Belt solo role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of this review, please check out the playlist in the description below. Dead Belt is a game where you participate as a scavenger, making some earnings, finding some valuable things inside of these huge ships that are floating around and are being pulled into a black hole. This time we are going to talk about the game mechanics, but first I want to give you an overview of the game flow so that things make more sense. First we have the setup. In step 1, you roll one 6-sided die to determine the tier of the next ship to scavenge. In step 2, you roll another d6 to determine its class. In step 3, you set up the ship using the corresponding deck plan under the birds section of Dead Belt of the rulebook. In step 4, you set down your airlock on any one of the ship's modules to begin exploring. Then we have the scavenge phase, starting with step 5. When you enter a module, you roll a d6 to check your gas. You can spend glow to check the suit of an adjacent module before you enter it. In step 6, you respond to the module's prompt by checking the corresponding oracle. You can spend gear to roll 2 6-sided dice and take the better outcome when responding to the prompt. You can spend grit to turn a failed roll into a mixed success. Remember that checking off your last point of grit will trigger a threat. You can also use the push mechanic to sweeten the pot or make things worse on any red card module. In step 7, you scavenge as much loot as you can, remembering that you can only carry as much as your load maximum allows at once. Make sure to differentiate supply from salvage on your character sheet. In step 8, you return your airlock and make your airlock move to convert load to cargo. You can only drop off supply resources if you have a spares bank upgrade with open ports. This stuff might be super valuable to your ability to keep on living, but it's not cargo. You repeat steps 5 to 8 until you are ready or forced to take off. Then we have the rest stop belter phase. Starting with step 9, you convert your stored cargo to cred at a rate of 1 for 1. In step 10, you make your bank move roll, compound debt, or take a new line of extended credit. In step 11, you pay your upkeep. In step 12, you pay down your debt or go shopping. Buy whatever upgrades interest you, or make an investment to lower your future upkeep. You repeat steps 1 to 12 until you pay off all your debt, max out your investments, and beat the system. Now let me give you an overview of each of the mechanics separately. First we have the bank. When you begin the game, you add your belter's starting debt to the loan amount of your first ship. Debt is not cred. That would be too clean and easy. Debt points may be bought off for 10 cred apiece. If you accrue 10 debt, you have a single salvage operation to pay down your debt before the bank seizes your assets and you're bundled off to a wealth reclamation facility until said debt is paid in full. When that happens, your time in the belt is at an end. Now, when it comes to the bankroll, every time you return from a salvage operation, you roll a d6 and you check the bankroll chart for your corresponding current debt level. Based upon this roll, your debt may be increased by 1 point with the compound interest move, or the bank may extend credit, offering you 9 cred in exchange for 1 point of debt. Then we have information on the payday. This is what you're out here for, belter. All the salvage you find is a nice bonus, but there are certain pieces that are troublesome, dangerous, or otherwise just left to go down with the ship. You're not going to let that happen. They are too valuable for that. This is your meal ticket. When you encounter the payday, represented by the black joker, you roll a d6. Depending on your roll, you choose a few of several choices. If you roll a 6, you choose 3 of those choices. You choose those 3 as if they are true. If you roll a 4 or a 5, you choose 2. On a 1 to 3, the payday you came for has already been stripped, broken beyond repair, or has become too unstable or dangerous to transport. So it's better to roll 4, 5, or 6. The options or choices include: you can transport the whole payday in one trip regardless of size. Or maybe the payday is worth more than you first imagined. Or perhaps you don't attract unwanted attention from a threat. The size of your payday scales with the tier of the bird, that is the ship, you are picking over. Then we have information on the airlock. When you have a load and you return to the airlock, you roll a d6. On a 6, you are able to stow what you've got and you can get right back to work. On a roll of 4 or 5, you choose one of various options. On a roll of 1 to 3, you choose 2. Perhaps you're going to need to improvise a storage solution. You have to spend a gear. Or maybe it takes you some time to get everything stored. You have to check your gas. When you are in the airlock, you may take supply from your ship's spares bank, if you have one without making the airlock move. Then we have information on the spacewalk. You can spacewalk between any two modules separated by a gap. This gap may be part of the ship's original design, or caused by the ship breaking apart. You check your gas as usual when you arrive in the next module. When you spacewalk, you roll a d6. On a 6, you cross the gap with minimal fuss. On a 4 or 5, you draw one card from the unused portion of your deck. On a 1, 2 or 3, you draw 2 cards. So this roll could result in several things. For example, if you draw a red card or 2, you can bridge the gap, but it's going to cost you something. You use a resource, perhaps grit, gear, or you check gas, and consider how you use it to get across. Or maybe if you draw a red and a black card, or 2 black cards, you spend a resource, but it's still not enough. Then you have information on birds. When you enter the dead belt to find a bird for salvaging, and remember, birds are ships, you roll a d6 to determine the tier of the bird. You roll a d6 to determine the class of the bird. And when it comes to navigating birds, when you generate your bird, shuffle your deck and draw a number of cards required for the ship's deck plan, then add the payday, that is the black joker card. You shuffle this smaller deck and lay out the cards face down in the pictured arrangement. You choose one card over which to deploy your airlock. That is the red joker card. You lay the airlock over top of the selected card without looking at it, unless you have the scanner upgrade. Then put the token representing your belter on the airlock. You move through the ship, checking your gas every time you enter a module, and navigating the prompts which correspond to the suit and number of the cards. You return to your airlock to empty your load into your ship's cargo bay with the airlock move. When you find the payday card, you roll the payday move. Return to your airlock at any time to end your excursion into the belt. Now, some of these birds have been floating out here, falling into disrepair for decades. Stress fractures can turn into a total hull split quicker than you can spit. When prompted to make a shipbreaker roll, you roll your d6 and consult your bird's deck plan to see which parts go tumbling off into space. So you have different overviews when it comes to the plans of the different ships. You have the civilian station hopper, the light cargo freighter, the light militia patrol craft, just to name a few. They all have different sizes, different configurations and arrangements. There are many types of ships that you can enter, so there's a lot of replay value here. Now, concerning push, when you uncover a red card that is either salvage or supply, you may elect to push the card. When you push a card, you take a risk, linger, or otherwise push your luck for benefit. When the card you uncovered is salvage, you hope to eke out a little extra profit. When the card you uncovered is supply, you are trying to get the maximum available supply from the room. When you push, draw the top card from your remaining deck. If it is a red card, congratulations, that salvage card is worth 2 additional load, or that supply card awards the maximum supply, no roll needed. If it is a black card, you're inching closer to running out of luck entirely, keep that card handy. If you collect a second black card, your luck has run out, you may no longer push cards on this bird. Now roll a d6 and consult a chart to see what happens. When it comes to threats, sad fact of this business is that things sometimes don't go smooth like. Every so often your luck and labor isn't enough to get in the way of that. That's when you find yourself facing down a threat. When you spend your last point of grit, or when a prompt tells you to, you roll a d6 to generate a threat from a table. You could encounter many things: aliens, rival scavengers, murderous ghosts, merciless pirates, and weirder things still. I'm going to avoid talking about them because I don't want to spoil the fun, or the scares. At the end of the book, you have an oracles section. This is the section that you are going to consult when prompted by your actions that could result in several things. That is, as you are moving through the ships, you are going to be revealing these cards. So you're going to encounter barriers such as hatches that have been jammed or welded shut. Maybe you trigger a booby trap. Perhaps the lights go out. Maybe you encounter an apocalyptic log. Perhaps the grab system fails. Maybe you encounter treasure and keepsakes, an arms locker, perhaps supplies and medicine. And at the very end of the book, you have a section detailing the cost of all of the things that you can purchase, that is, your upgrades, such as the scanner, the Outlast Deep Breather, or the override key, just to give you a few examples. So all of these things are going to be affecting your survivability. When it comes to the events, the elements that you reveal in the cards as you are navigating the different ships, they usually take a toll on your oxygen or your grit. And the upgrades, of course, are going to raise your odds of survival. They are going to grant you more resources and better chances to navigate the modules of the ships safely. So overall, what do I think of Dead Belt? I think this is an awesome solo science fiction role-playing game. I think there is a nice balance of strategy and tactics. When it comes to the strategy, when you purchase your upgrades, you think ahead on what you need and your style of play and the class of belter that you are playing as. When it comes to the tactics, as the ship that you are exploring is falling apart, as you encounter threats and hazards within the ship, you are constantly taking calculated risks, moving to certain parts of the ship, moving towards the payday, but sometimes you really need to make a quick getaway, with the hopes that managing your extra creds could serve to purchase that upgrade that will raise your chances of success in the next excursion into the belt. So I highly recommend that you get the Dead Belt solo role-playing game, especially if you don't mind difficult games with ups and downs. This is definitely not the game that you're going to be winning constantly. It is quite gritty and unpredictable. It feels a bit like Space Hulk, just a tiny bit, but almost completely focused in a nice balance of resource management with strategies and tactics within the ship. Thank you for watching this review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending right through RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.